Hey, sports fans, this is Robert with WTP Sports Dudes here live tonight, ready to talk about some college football thoughts. I know many of you out there in the college football world have been hearing a lot of discussion about future things possibly happening in college football. Also, some of these coaches going back and forth with Ole Miss being the main topic. It's a lot going on out there in the college football world. We're going to talk a little bit about it and some of the things that we think might be coming down the pipeline eventually in college football. We're going to talk about it. We would love to get your thoughts on it. So if you're in the chat, please make sure you hit that like button. Make sure that you hit that chat and tell us your thoughts and what you think about what we're going to be discussing tonight. I know many people are out there waiting to see the NFL 2026 schedule reveal that comes on at 8 o'clock. But tonight, I'm here ready to talk a little bit about my college football thoughts and some of the things that's going on in the world of college football. So, first up, we got a question in the chat. It says, will conferences sign new television deals once they run out, or should they allow their teams to reach streaming deals of their own? That's a really, really good question. We all know that the Big Ten and the Big 12, their eventual contract with um, their TV deals is going to be up in 29 and 30, and then I believe 30 and 31. So those contracts are going to be coming to a close in about 4 or 5 years from now. And a lot of people are wondering, are these conferences going to sign another TV deal? Because most of those deals have been worth about $300 million. That's been yielding each one of those teams in those conferences about 20 plus million a year from those TV contracts. The thing that I'm thinking is going to probably happen with this whole scenario is I think there's going to be teams in these conferences when this eventual contracts end. Because we all know in the ACC, those teams like Miami, Clemson, Florida State, they want to get out of that ACC because of the TV deal that they have. They don't think it's lucrative enough like it is in the Big Ten and the SEC. What I can see possibly happening, and this is just me thinking what it could possibly happen or what could possibly come forward after these contracts are over, or some of these teams, especially big name brands, I could see them going to a streaming channel and say, listen, you can stream our games on your channel, uh, like for instance, Peacock, like for instance, the Prime, Amazon Prime, or Netflix, or some of those other streaming channels that we've been seeing football games on, basketball games on. They might approach some of these college teams, and some of these college teams might approach them to get their own streaming deal. And instead of sharing the pot with the conference, they might want to go ahead and get their own pot of money coming to them, allowing one of those streaming companies to stream their games exclusively. And we all also are hearing a lot of buzz about some of these, at least from Steve Sarkisian, saying that maybe the maybe the SEC might move away from the NCAA. You just never know what's going to happen. But when you hear this kind of talk coming from coaches, coming from commissioners about how they feel about how the NCAA is handling things, you can start to wonder if these teams are going to leave their conference and probably find their own streaming deals. I think it's very likely that something like that could happen. Otherwise, the ESPN, ABC, Fox, those guys are going to really have to come up off of a lot more money the next time these contracts are due in order to keep these conferences with their channel. So I think this is going to be a really hot topic in about 4, 5, 6 years from now. It might even start sooner than that, though, because you never know when these teams and these conferences are going to try to leverage their power, because college football is becoming so powerful that I believe next to the NFL, there's nothing else sports wise that even can compete in the United States when it comes to college football outside of the NFL. We all know the NFL is king. So I think it's possible for teams individually to go after their own contracts with other streaming companies and get away from those TV contracts with Fox, ESPN, and ABC. And who knows, Notre Dame might even go away from their deal with NBC. We'll have to wait and see, but I think that's very, very possible. And that's a really good question that I think we're going to start to see answers about that in a couple of years. Another question we have: would you like to see NFL evaluations on all potential NFL picks, regardless if they are freshmen or sophomore? As we all know, they usually do evaluations on juniors and seniors, players who are eligible to enter the NFL draft. But I am a firm believer that I think that they should do evaluations on every player who might have the potential of going or making it to the NFL. A lot of times, if you follow high school recruiting going into college, you see players on these high school teams that are going to college, and you can see them and say, listen, this guy is a future NFL player. I would definitely like to see an evaluation done on every player who has the possibility of making it to the NFL someday, so that they can see where they are projected at and the way the NFL is looking at them as a college football player. So I think they should even do it as even as a freshman. But freshman is playing a lot. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I feel like we've had some players in the past who probably would have had really good evaluations by the NFL. If you look back at Adrian Peterson, and if you look even recent times with Jeremiah Smith, those guys would probably have had first round draft grades as freshmen after their freshman season was over. And I would like to see the NFL do that. Give NFL grades to any college player, no matter their classification, whether they're freshman, sophomore, junior, or senior. I think they should do that. But right now, they only do juniors and seniors. Another question that we have is, should there be a clause in the NFL draft eligibility rules that allow freshmen or sophomore to enter into the NFL draft if they can get a first round grade? Going back to that last question that was asked about should freshmen or sophomore get evaluated by the NFL, I think these two questions go pretty much hand in hand. But I think that there should be a clause in the eligibility for a player that's in college to be able to go to the NFL. Because the reason why I'm saying that is you have had some players who have been true freshmen who we felt like could possibly go to the NFL after their freshman campaign. We all seen Maurice Clarett try to do it, and he had a monster season for Ohio State that year. But he was not granted the right to go to the NFL after his freshman year. Of course, he didn't make an NFL team once he was able to do that. But I think after his freshman year, he probably could have went and played in the NFL. So I think that there should be a clause in there to where now it's you're only eligible to enter the NFL draft if you're a junior or you've been in college for 3 years, the completion of your third year. So that's 3 years removed from high school. Then you can go and enter into the NFL draft. But I think there are some cases out there, very few, Very, very, very few. And I think that in the case of Jeremiah Smith, like I said earlier, I believe Jeremiah Smith, after his freshman year, could have went to the NFL, and I'm quite sure he would have had a first round NFL draft grade. And Adrian Peterson is another one. I believe Adrian Peterson, after his freshman year, would have had a first round draft grade. I believe Earl Campbell would have had a first round draft grade. Now, when you start thinking about some of the defensive linemen, offensive linemen, some of those positions, quarterback, maybe not so much because those guys still need a little bit more development. And even though some of these offensive and defensive linemen are huge guys, they're not quite ready at 18 and 19 years old to be able to physically compete with some of these NFL guys who are 22, 23, 24 years old. They're just not ready at those positions. But at wide receiver, running back, I believe those position groups could definitely have a case to get one of those clauses to get into the NFL after their freshman year. I don't know if that will ever happen, but I'm quite sure somebody in the future might test that. The reason why it probably won't happen is because of NIL and players are already getting paid while they're in college. So it may never happen, but I would like to see a clause there for cases specifically like a Jeremiah Smith, because after his freshman year, he was already looking like a grown man. Same with Adrian Peterson. I would like to see a clause for at least those guys to be able to have an opportunity to go to the NFL. If they receive a first round grade, if it's not first round, then I mean, I don't think they want to waste their time. They'll stay in college and get that NIL money. Another question on the docket. Man, these questions are really in there. Will Notre Dame join a conference, or could we see more teams become independent in the near future? I think this question is which one do you think will happen first? Notre Dame will enter into a conference, or will more teams become independent? Well, we heard Steve Sarkisian talking about the possibility of those SEC teams, getting away from the NCAA, which would mean that they will probably have to go independent at that point. I'm not quite sure that anybody is going to do that anytime soon. I will probably see them try to force Notre Dame into a conference sooner than I see more teams going independent, simply because I think the way college football is set up now with the college football playoffs, conferences, the whole Notre Dame situation being on the outside when it comes to the college football playoffs, I think one of their main goals in the very near future is going to be, how do we deal with Notre Dame? Because there's people out there and they whisper it and they ain't necessarily saying it out loud. Now, those of us who are in the media and who do podcasting, we're saying it out loud. Notre Dame, we feel like some people feel like they're getting preferential treatment because of how they're being handled when it comes to the college football playoffs. If they're ranked in the top 12, they automatically get a bid into the college football playoffs, and that whole situation there. But I think that we got a lot of teams out there who are looking at this whole money situation, and would it be more feasible for us as a university, as a collegiate sports league, to go ahead and get away from the NCAA or conference and go independent? Now, everybody can't do that. Everybody cannot do that. Everybody doesn't have that type of brand. They don't have that kind of sports following, or they're not even, in terms of all the sports that they got, they're not even that competitive to where they could do that. Now, but you do have some universities like the Ohio State University, they could go independent. You got Michigan, they could go independent. You got Texas, they can go independent. Alabama, Georgia, LSU, those places can go independent. Miami, I want to throw Florida State in there, but I ain't 100% sure about Florida State yet. But I think you got at least 8 to 10 universities that could go independent. Now, will they go independent and leave some of these other people in their conference hanging? Probably not. They will probably want to do it as a conference as a whole, not just 4 or 5 or 6 of them from the conference going independent and then leave all those other ones hanging because they want those other universities to be able to survive collegiately as well. And we all know that the major powerhouses in these conferences are the ones who bring in the majority of the money, and they wouldn't want them just to be hanging out there like that. So I think it's more likely, as I bring One Take Zaya onto the stage, it's more likely, I think that Notre Dame will be pushed into a conference than more teams decide that they're going to go independent. Let me welcome my man One Take Zaya into the show. How you feeling, One Take Zaya?
I'm good. What's up with you, family?
I'm pretty good, man. I'm pretty good. I just went over a couple of questions. Would you like to give your take on those questions that we already addressed?
Yeah. Go ahead. What's up? What we got?
All right. So the first one was, will conferences sign new television deals once they run out, or should they allow their teams to reach streaming deals of their own? Should conferences not sign a new deal and just be like, hey, listen, if you can go find somebody that can pay you better than what these contracts we're going to possibly get with ESPN, Fox, or ABC, you go out there and do your thing and get your own deal with a streaming company. How do you feel about that question?
So this answer might, sound a little cliche, but I think this is going to start realignment in conferences, because what's going to happen is, let's just take Ohio State for example. It's rumblings. You hearing rumblings about Ohio State going the streaming route with Amazon, Netflix, Peacock, Prime Video, and they talking about a deal could be worth up to 300 million. So if you take Ohio State out of a TV contract deal, that would be a part of a Big Ten and 20, almost 20 schools, then what would the rest of those schools warrant if Ohio State wasn't a part of that deal and they went to go get their own streaming contract? What would that deal look like, and would it actually make sense for those teams to sign up for that contract? So now what we're looking at is, if you got a few of your major programs in certain conferences that's looking like, hold on, man, we think we can get a larger piece of these TV right deals by just doing our own thing and going about our own contract, then I feel like that's the possible way we could see certain programs going indie. But I don't think it's a lot of programs that could actually be indie. It's only about 4 or 5 for real that I feel like could stand alone. I think everybody else would need another group of body of people to actually survive in this makeup of the landscape of college sports and NIL that we got. But them contracts, them streaming service contracts, can be more lucrative for the same reason why the NBA is doing it and the WNBA is doing it, because they're cutting damn near the middleman out, which is the actual conference. So it's gonna get real interesting when these deals end, because you might see where people will stay away from the streaming deals if we move to 2 super conferences, just because they know they're going to not have to split the bag with 2 other, like say the SEC adds the next 5 or 6 best programs out there between the ACC and the Big 12, and the Big 10 as the next 5 best teams or best programs from them same 2 conferences. So now they got 10 schools from both of them conferences. So them conferences is going to be dead. So now it's more money out there because there's more TV services to put money into those conferences as well. You see what I'm saying? So you cutting out two apples. So it's gonna be interesting to really see what's gonna happen, man. Because I think the TV contracts is exactly what's gonna control conference realignment.
That's a good take. That's a good take. One take, Zay. Post game, I'm gonna get to your question here in a minute because I really want to get one take Zay's take on it as well. But let me take him through this next few questions before we get to yours again. Okay. The next question, one take is: would you like to see the NFL evaluation on potential NFL draft picks, regardless if they are freshmen or sophomore? So, would you like to see them evaluate freshmen and sophomores who they think might be potential NFL players in the future? Would you like to see them get NFL grades as early as freshmen and sophomores?
Uh, I I really don't mind if they did or didn't do it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because one thing I understand is that at pro days, underclassmen, if your school feels comfortable enough with letting you perform at pro day, that these NFL executive and scouts can lay eyes on you. So they already got pretty much a notebook of how you looking in your workouts. They already seen you do film. If the smart programs, if they're doing their due diligence, they're already they're already a year ahead of if you're not draft eligible. They already watched that tape to scout you prehand. So I don't really necessarily mind if they did or don't, because at the end of the day, even you still got 2 years when you become draft eligible. You got that junior year. So if you decided that you wanted to go to the NFL, you can flirt with it. You can have an agent, kind of get a little representation to some of these executives and scouts, and kind of see how they feel about your evaluation off that. And if you don't like how the kind of noise that you got, you just come back to school and put more on film. So I really don't mind whether they do or don't, for real. But like I said, Julian Sain was throwing at the pro day for Ohio State. I know that. But guess who else did? Tavian St. Clair. Tavian St. Clair ain't got no reps in college football yet, but we felt comfortable enough to where we got 32 NFL teams represented at our pro day, that we felt comfortable enough to let him go out there and throw the ball, knowing that guys are out there looking for a roster spot. So um, it stuff like that matters. You know what I'm saying? So that's evaluation right there for scouts.
Okay, okay. Along those same lines with that last question, should there be a clause in the NFL draft eligibility rules that should allow freshmen or sophomore to enter the NFL draft if they got a first round grade as a freshman or sophomore? Should they be allowed to enter the NFL draft and have a clause in there that allow them to do so?
Yeah, nah, I wouldn't. I wouldn't, because man, the violence in football, man. I think CTE is such a real thing that I don't know. You ain't. It ain't like you gonna dodge CTE regardless, but you know, people can really lose their life behind football. So 21 and up, I think that's the perfect age, perfect rule. It still give your body time to develop. We do see some of these alien dudes like Jeremiah Smith come out that just look like they ready to play in the NFL from day one. But at the end of the day, we still got to understand that is a 20-year-old young man. You feel me? At the end of the day. So, nah, I'm cool with the 21-year-old rule, or 3 years removed from high school.
All right, cool. Let's take this next question and then we'll go to post games question. Will Notre Dame join a conference, or could we see more teams become independent in the near future? And you talked a little bit about that a little earlier. Which is more likely to happen? Notre Dame end up in a conference, or more teams become independent?
Yeah, I'm always going to lean towards Notre Dame joining the conference, then more teams becoming independent. And it's a couple factors too. Like, we got to understand, people going independent, like maybe Texas, Ohio State. Like I said, it's a select few that I really think could actually do it. But people going independent, it's like you never done it before, so that's really a risky move for real. We could sit there and say, man, they could stand alone, independent, but we ain't seen no big time programs outside of Notre Dame do it and do it real well. So I would say they would collude before they would just jump out there and stand alone. They'd collude and be like, nah, man, we need to level the playing field. They getting all that money. Let's make them jump in the conference before they would be like, oh, we can do what they doing. Because everybody across the country can look at Notre Dame and actually feel like their program can do it. But who can really do it though? You know what I'm saying? They might make it look easy. You know what I'm saying? That's the only thing I'm saying. They might just make it look easy. I don't think being independent is easy though.
Yeah, I don't think it's easy either. Let's go to post games question because I talked about that question earlier that you just answered one take, and I was saying that maybe not in these conferences you might hear it whisper, but you don't hear them coming out like you hear media people talking about. Maybe it is preferential treatment for Notre Dame to be able to have that if they're in the top 12, they could get into the college football playoffs. And so postgame wants to know, how is it preferential treatment if all conferences agree to them if they're going to be in the top 12 to make it to the college football playoffs? And doesn't every team have a path to guarantee them a playoff spot? What do you think about that question from postgame?
Preferential treatment. I mean, I think it's a little preferential treatment in there because when you think about it, there's 4 conferences represented, and then you always got probably a non-power school representative in the room. Then you got old guys that's retired that got ties to certain conferences, and then you got somebody that represents one faction, which is Notre Dame. So when you break down the percentage, you got to look at all these different percentages. That percentages, you having one person that represents your program in the room automatically gives you a high percentage. And this is basic numbers, Now they did agree to this, so that's one thing. You feel me? But I think a lot of that talk comes from fan bases. I don't think that talk comes from people that actually run the sport. You know what I'm saying? That's all fans. That's all fan talk right there. Preferential treatment. And I can admit it's a little haterish, I think it's a little haterish. Nobody said it ain't a little haterish though. And 2 things can be true. So yeah, I think that just comes straight from the and everybody do got a path to make the playoff and get a spot in the playoffs. But I think the majority of the people across the country is looking at Notre Dame, and this ain't Notre Dame's fault neither. But being in the ACC, and the ACC been down for a decade, everybody like, yeah, you gonna be able to skate through the ACC. Y'all gonna play 5 or 6 ACC teams a year. Woo woo woo. As long as y'all go 10-2, y'all gonna be in 9 times out of 10. And last year was a year where we seen that didn't ring true. And most people thought the brand of Notre Dame should have got them in for real. Because we understand brands bring in ratings bring in money, and it always about following the dollar bills. But 10-2, most years we know is going to get Notre Dame in. So if you can schedule who you want to schedule, you can kind of control the narrative in the favor of it. Ain't really necessarily preferential treatment. It's really it is an edge though. If you can't admit that that's an edge, then I don't know. That's an edge though for sure. Because Texas, y'all stuck? Who the 4 teams y'all stuck with every year? Rivals, all rivalry games.
Arkansas, yeah, we got to play Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Texas A&M every year, and they got to play us.
Yeah, that's tough. You see, and I'm not saying it's Notre Dame's fault. It ain't like Notre Dame is ducking no smoke, but the fact that they can't get Michigan and USC on the schedule every year is a problem for a lot of folks.
Yeah, I think that the reality is, Notre Dame is outside of those conferences, and they gotta factor in Notre Dame because they're one of the best teams, college football programs in the country. So you got to factor them in because they're independent. So I guess they got to come up with some kind of formula to say how do we deal with the Notre Dame situation since they're not in a conference. Um, when it comes to top 12, I don't know if top 12 is the right number. Maybe top 10 should be the number, at least 11, because if they finish 12, well, yeah, I guess if they finish at 12, they should be getting in. But if you got somebody outside of 12, like those group of five schools, then they get to come in there and take a spot from whoever's at 11 if Notre Dame gets in if they're in the top 12. So I guess that's probably where some of the fans and some of the media people are saying that's preferential treatment to Notre Dame. The reality is Notre Dame is who they are, and you gotta take them into consideration. And yeah, every other conference has a guarantee way to get in. They just got to finish in the top of their conference, be a conference champion, and they can get them an automatic bid to get in. And they got to be ranked up high in the top 10, 11, 12, or top 11 to get in there. So it's going to be interesting going forward if they're going to revisit this after the end of maybe this next college football playoff run and see if maybe there's another direction they can go as it relates to Notre Dame. But we'll have to wait and see on that. Hopefully we answered your question post game.
They play the ACC schedule, so I always feel like if they're ranked higher than everybody in the ACC except for like maybe one team, then I think you really should consider putting them into the playoffs every year. That's how I feel. If they gonna play an ACC schedule and they come in and you got one team in ACC, which was like what Miami that finished like 10 last year. If Notre Dame is right at 12 or 13, I feel like they should just get in automatically, especially if they beat every ACC team on their schedule. That if they're going to play the ACC schedule, and that's in the country is going to say they're automatic bid if they get into 12. No, forget the bid if they're 12 or up. Just be like, all right, they probably would have won the ACC if they was in the ACC. If they played in the ACC championship game, they would have already had an automatic bid. So if they're ranked higher than everybody else, then y'all just got to leave somebody out. If that's the case, you know what I'm saying? You'll just leave somebody out. Be like, Notre Dame earned their right. They went 6-0 against the ACC this year. They probably would have been in the ACC championship. You know what I'm saying? That makes sense to me.
Yeah. B Glass Man 08 is asking, is Notre Dame actually legit? What's your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, if you look at Notre Dame's history, they just like Ohio State. They don't really lose more than 3 or 4 games in a year. You could go down every program in the country. Yeah, I get it. They ain't won a chip in a while since Lou Holtz. I get that, all that, woo, woo, woo. But year in and year out, you can guarantee that Notre Dame is going to be like a top 15 team in the country.
Yeah, I think they're a legit program as well. I feel like they made it to the college football playoffs when there was 4 teams. They made it to the college football playoffs and a national championship game 2 years ago. They should have made the college football playoff this year. I don't know how they didn't make it when they was already ahead of Miami, all of those different rankings until the last one. So, I think they're a legit program. I think they still have some more that they're gonna have to prove to those of us out there who watch and who might be wondering, since they're not in the conference, we got to see some more out of Notre Dame. But I think they've shown me enough already. I would like to see them continue to be considered one of the best teams when it comes to this college football thing, because they've been ranked up in the top for quite some time since the college football playoffs has been around when it went from 4 to 12, and in the future we'll see where it goes. If it goes to 16 or if it goes up to the 24. Let's see what else B Glass has to say before we get into this other question. Miami should have always been ranked ahead of Notre Dame, and both should have been in over Alabama. Hey, listen, B Glass, man, all right, I totally agree with you on that. I totally agree with you. And I think my man Wante Isaiah agrees as well. Alabama made it to the championship game in the SEC, but we already knew that they were not one of the better teams in the country at that time in the season, that they should not have made it, especially after getting thumped by Georgia the way they did.
No, whoa. I do not agree with that. I don't agree
what
with
you
that.
got to say? What you got to say?
I said it last year. It was one of them weird years. I know for a fact Notre Dame was a better team than Bama, but the results live on the field, and I cannot leave an Alabama team out that played in the SEC championship, even though they lost that game. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't, because I got respect for the SEC and the strength in that conference. You know what I'm saying? And the ACC, I don't have the respect of the strength of that conference.
Okay. Well, let's tackle this next question. Night games are super popular for most fans. Should there be a minimum amount of night games per team in each conference written into their television contract? What's your thoughts on that?
I'm pretty sure it's already language in them contracts about night games. I think it's all about who people are paired with. We know ESPN is king when it comes to sports television. And I think that the 7:30 time slots, ESPN, Saturday night, that's like prime time. So the SEC is tied into that. So who do you really want to do? Certain programs or teams really want to compete with SEC football, like Big 12, for instance. So I ain't worried about certain teams across the country, like Oregon, Oregon game that's aired at 7:30 going up against a SEC game. I think them teams, Oregon, Ohio State, Michigan, even certain Penn State games, I think those teams will bring in their draws. You know what I'm saying? But Indiana, I'm still not sure. I know that fan base is rejuvenated, but are they going to bring in enough of a draw to where them other top programs is to go up against some of these crazy games that we see with some of these crazy fan bases in the SEC? You know what I'm saying? That's what it's about. It's about ratings, television ratings. So your best bet is to schedule certain 3:30 games or 12 o'clock games. Ohio State, we don't duck no smoke. I'm pretty sure we could go 7:30 every night, and it's still going to be one of the highest viewed because of the fan base. It's all about fan bases, though. I don't think the contracts should say anything other than what they should say. I think certain teams, though, in each conference, the main draws should be playing 7:30 marquee games. 7:30 marquee games in every conference should be all marquee games in certain conferences should be under the lights. That's how I feel. The majority of them, not all of them, because I love that we play Michigan at noon every year. I never want to change that. That's tradition. You know what I'm saying? We play them at noon. That's what it is. But like other games, like I anytime I play Penn State, I want to play them under the lights. Now that we got Oregon and USC, when we play those guys, I want to play them under the lights. I don't care whose stadium we in. I want to play them under the lights. I just think certain games is meant to be under the lights.
Yeah, I would like to see them at least have a minimum of 2, maybe even 3 games per team played at night, even if it has to be. I don't know if the Big Ten Network has games on at night or if they just do 12 and 3:30. But even if it was on the Big Ten Network or the SEC Network or the ACC Network, some game at night should be on. A primetime matchup should be on at that night game. And then I know that a lot of people are going to be like, dang, man, I don't want all of those high profile games. You got one on ESPN, you got one on ABC, you got one on Fox, and then you got one on one of the conference channels too. That's way too much. I want to be able to watch my team if they on and not miss out on all these other high profile games. But I think there should at least be 2 or 3 per team where they get to play at night and be up under the lights, and their fans get to get the experience their team playing that night, light shows, all the festivities that they do when you play at nighttime. And I think everybody should get the opportunity to have that at least twice, maybe even 3 times a season. I would like to see something like that happen.
Hey, so Rob, though, too, though. See, when you get to playing on these ACC networks, these Big Ten networks, that's where ratings can get affected too, because a lot of people only got access to basic cable. So that's where ABC and Fox come in, and the ratings really get drove up on them channels, because all you need is a hanger to put in your antenna. You know what I'm saying?
Not the hanger game.
Hey, the hanger, that's all you need. You know what I mean?
Hey, man, listen, I done used plenty of hangers, bro. Plenty of hangers. That's for sure. Our next question we got out there is, the CFP committee has until December 1st, 2026 to decide on staying with 12 teams or increasing. What's your prediction? Are they going to stay at 12 once they reach that deadline, or do you see them going to 16, 24, or some other number higher than 12?
See, this is where college football be running into their problem, man. They got to listen to the fan bases and what the people want. The people want 12. I think they're going to stay one more year at 12. I think next year we're going to see another 12. But I think they're going to go back and revisit it again. And we're going to be having the same conversations next year. And I think we'll be much more closer to actually definitively changing it to whatever they want to, wherever they've been thinking about, But I think we are definitely going to stay one more year after this year. But they got to listen to the fan base, man. None of the fan base for real want 24. We got a few people out here that want it. T1, one of our guys, as y'all know, with City League TV, he want 24, but the majority of our panel, we like 12. Really, I like 8. I've been saying 8 for the longest, but I know they ain't gonna go down. You know what I'm saying? Because now you taking money. I know they're not gonna go down. So if it was up to me, though, a perfect world would be to stay at 12 or do the 8, but I wouldn't be opposed to seeing a 16 either.
Yeah. Well, I'm almost certain it was CBS News where I read that every conference wants 24 except for the SEC. We already know that the Big Ten commissioner threw it out there. I believe that the ACC commissioner says that they want to go to 24. The Big 12 is in favor of 24. The only lone man standing is the SEC. I really can see this thing, and I agree with you. I think next year it probably will stay at 12, but I'm telling you, after that, I think it's going to 24. I think they're going to bypass 16 and not even flirt around with that, because I think they discussed this so much in the past year. Once that 24 was mentioned, they've been discussing that thing so much, and it's been on all kinds of coaches' minds, conferences, the whole 9 yards, that I think after next year, they're going to probably, on December 1st, 2026, they're going to probably do 12 again. But I think they're going from 12 to 24. They're going to double it up, man. In 2028, we're going to get 24 teams, in my opinion. I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, my understanding, too, is that the NCAA sent out the memo to all the coaches that they don't care what happens. They just gave them a calendar, and they was like, as long as y'all can fit everything through the calendar how we need y'all to fit it through, y'all can do whatever with this playoff. We don't care.
I saw that too, man. And the thing that I just really want them to get away from this long old layoff, man. They got to do something about that. But hopefully they'll look at that calendar and then they'll do that and not have these long old layoffs before, uh, like say for instance when Ohio State won the national championship. I don't know who the top four teams was, but I don't think they played for like 30 days. And then after that game, you got these 10-day layoffs, and then you playing all the way into the second, almost third week of freaking January. I think this thing should come to a close right at or around January 1st. I think it should be done. Whenever that, I want it to be that Saturday that's closest to January 1st, whether it be December 30th, 31st, or whether it's January 1st or 2nd. That Saturday, I want it to be that way. But I ain't got no say, so they're gonna put that sucker on a Monday, regardless of what I got to say.
Nah, facts. I think if you do 24 though, I think that cut a lot of that out too.
I sure hope so. One take. I sure hope
Or
so.
at least, I mean, 24, probably not for the first 8 seeds, but the next group of teams, I don't think we'll go that long without seeing football, is what I'm saying. You get what I'm saying? I think it
Yeah,
still be a long layoff for the guys that get buys, probably 3 weeks, But my whole thing is what you gonna do with conference championships if you do that? Because are you gonna give people the option if you keep it? Are you gonna give people the option to opt out? I don't want to play
yeah,
the conference championship game if that's the case. If we move to 24, what's the point of it?
right. I really do wonder how much the committee, and thanks for putting this in there, B Glass man. Oh wait, how much the committee thought about that loss that Alabama took first game of the season of Florida State. How much did that weigh on them? It must not have weighed too much because they still got the freaking college football playoffs. But I wonder how much that they paid attention to that, or did they just say, "Oh, it was early in the season. They lost to Florida State, who was what? How many games they went? 4 or 5 games last year." I wonder how much that weighed on their minds when they made that decision to keep Alabama in that college football playoffs.
Definitely a bad loss. But sometimes when you comparing schedules, I feel like when they looked at it, they was like they gave Bama more credit for who they beat and not who they lost to.
Yeah, and they beat that Georgia team uh, in the regular season, so you got to take that into account. And Georgia ended up being the eventual SEC champion. And postgame said ESPN doesn't want 24 either, but according to T1 and some of these other guys out there, ESPN and SEC and the SEC are brother and sister, and that's why they probably don't want 24.
That's facts.
And he also postgame also said it's over for conference championship games if they go to 24. Yeah, if they go to 24, college conference championship games will be over with. And I think I flip back and forth about this conference championship stuff, man. Do I want it? Do I not want it? And there's a part of me that does not want it, but I don't want it to go away until after Texas wins the SEC.
I know for a fact I want it. I want the conference championship games. But if you gonna tell me we got to do a 2014 playoffs, I absolutely don't want it. There's no way I would want that. You feel me? But I don't want 24 teams either. I think the conference championship still matters with 12, but even if you push it to 16, I think it's irrelevant for Ohio State to go out here and be 10-2 or 11-1 and then turn around and play in the conference championship. I just don't. I wouldn't get what the point is. You're risking injury. If somebody can claim the regular season title over you because you lost a game or two in your conference play, and then they're automatically claimed the conference championship, well, then that's our fault. We should have won that game. But to go out and settle it on the field to the top two teams, and it really ain't going to do nothing to move the needle, but to drop you from either the 2 seed to the 4 seed, I just don't find no point in it. Just line up and play whoever they put in front of you.
Yeah, I think this is a really good point made by Anthony Campbell, 6307. He said Bama should have been out. Ohio State dropped down from losing to Indiana in their conference championship game, and where Alabama was placed before that national championship game. The distance that Ohio State fell, if Alabama fell that same distance, they fall outside of the top 10. And you know those two group of 5 schools got in there at 11 and 12. Alabama should have probably been out too, because they should have failed just like Ohio State failed from losing their game. And Ohio State barely lost, and Alabama got crushed. What do you think about that?
Yeah, the first thing that popped up in my head is Kodak lyrics. All rules don't apply to everybody. Kodak said, sorry, boo. Yeah, I lied to you, but don't you lie to me. There was 2 undefeated teams. They was playing for the number 1 seed. It was only right.
Hey, man, hey. Postgame said these are facts. I agree with you, Anthony. I agree with you, Postgame, and I'm quite sure One Take Xavier agree with you too, but he had to drop that Kodak Black. And you said this at Kodak Black, right?
Yeah, Kodak Black. He said, sorry, boo. Yeah, I lied to you, but don't you lie to me.
Hey, that's a good one, Kodak Black. That's definitely a good one. Let's go to our next question. We got a few more in the chat. We're coming right up on 52 minutes. It says, what's your take on coaches taking shots at other coaches in their program / university? What's your thoughts on that?
Man, it's going to be some sticky after the game handshakes, ain't it? Hey, I think it's good for the sport, honestly. I think it bring hostile environments, storylines, more exciting games, because the hostility that's building up to the lead up of the games. We're gonna get video playbacks, conversation playbacks. We're gonna get all different types of stuff leading up to some of these games from some of these quotes that we getting. So I love it, man. Hey, when you in a competitive sport, that's how it's supposed to be, man. That's just what it is. You supposed to get under your opponent's skin as much as possible so you can get their best shot. Let's get your best shot, man. I love it. I don't mind it at all.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like these coaches, they taking a page out of the old school rappers playbook. Hey, I'm going to start this beef with this dude. It ain't going to be no real beef, but it's going to be the kind of beef that's going to get us some attention. It's going to make your record sound sore. It's going to make my record sound sore, and it's going to pack stadiums. So I think that's what these coaches are doing, because I know when they go to these sessions, man, and they have these conversations and they run into each other, they probably chummy, cool in the game. Now, some of them might really be beefing, though. But I think it's good for the sport, man. I think it gets everybody excited about the next chapter, how this handshake going to be after the game, all of those things. But it gets us as fans tuning in, which is the ultimate goal, right? They want people watching their product on the field. So I'm cool with it as well, because I don't think any of these coaches are going to risk their livelihood for some kind of little beef like this. So, I mean, I'm quite sure they're doing it probably just to promote things and get things stirred up, but I don't think they really mean any harm by it. So I'm cool with it. Last question that I got in the chat is, what players do you think will accompany your team's coaches to national media days for the conference? So National Media Days is going to be coming up at some point here in the next couple of months. Who do you think is going to be in attendance for the Ohio State Buckeyes when the coaches go to this National Media Days?
Yeah, I think we're going to have 4 guys. I think it's going to be JJ, Julian, and I think Austin Saraville will be there. And then I think Kenyatta Jackson to be there. I wish we could do 2-2, but you know, I mean, maybe they might bring Jalen McClain or something, but I think it'd be three offensive guys and one defensive guy for real. We ain't return a lot on defense, so it wouldn't really make sense to bring one of these guys that really ain't got no reps, or maybe the country really don't know about. Most of the guys that we got really returning is on the offensive end, so I can see a 3-1 split. And I think it's 4 players. If it's just 3 though, I think it'd just be probably JJ, Austin Saraville. I think he'll lead Julian. I think he'll lead Julian out of it for real, and Kenyatta.
Okay. I'm almost certain they're going to take 4 as well from Texas. I'm quite sure it's going to be Arch Manning and probably Ryan Wingo from the offensive side of the ball. And then defensively, it's probably going to be Colin Simmons and Jelani McDonald from the defensive side of the ball. I think those 4 guys are probably going to be the 4 that go and represent Texas when they go to the National Media Day for the SEC Conference. Anything else you want to talk about college football related before we wrap up?
Man, September 12th is the day we're going to make Texas back out of all their non-conference games. Notre Dame, who y'all got in the future? They going to back out because they going to lose 2 more games again this year. They going to go 9-3, y'all. Y'all hearing it here first. They going 9-3, and then they ain't going to make the playoffs again. They going to be caught up in this whole same circus.
I mean, I'm glad you feel that way. You starting the fireworks early with me, and I appreciate that. But I'm telling you right now, we're not losing on September 12th. This is a game that Texas has got to win. I think the home field is going to be in Texas' favor. It's going to be a really good football game. But I think, like we talked about earlier, when you play it in your home field at night, your chances of winning that game goes up a little bit. And I think that's going to be the little bit Texas is going to need in order to win that game. And I think we're going to pull it out by a narrow victory. But a narrow victory over what is probably going to be projected the number 1 team in the country in the Ohio State Buckeyes is going to be unbelievable. So that's the way I'm going with it. And I know you're going to be wearing that Texas shirt on the stream following that. So get it ready, press it real good, fit a crease on the sleeve part and down the sides.
Hey, you think Ryan Day got Sark's number?
I don't think he has his number. Now I will say this: y'all's defensive coordinator, man, he's been lights out, bro. He's been lights out. Whether it was Patricia last year or Knowles the year before, the defense has been the difference. Ohio State's offense has been okay, but it ain't. Ryan Day ain't really opened it up that great, especially last year. But the year before, they had a really good offense, but he didn't really have to do a whole lot to really open it up because them daggone running back on that daggone play before halftime broke our backs. But I think the defensive guys have really been able to control the game. And y'all been more physical, too, in the trenches than Texas has been the last 2 seasons, too, even though it was a close battle last year. But the year before, Ohio State they was too powerful in the trenches for Texas.
Yeah, do you know when y'all's National Media Day is?
I'm not 1,000% sure, but I know it's sometime. I believe it's sometime in August.
Mm.
Yeah,
Hey,
sometime in August.
August ain't too far away, man.
It ain't too far away. You're right. You're right.
Yeah, I ain't
All
got
right,
nothing
well,
else.
I appreciate you jumping in with me, man, and helping me carry through these line of questions that we have. I'll check you out tomorrow at work. Everybody out there in the chat, make sure that you subscribe to all those channels scrolling across the bottom. Because even though we come on here as WTP Sports Dudes, we all have our own individual channels that are scrolling across the bottom. Please go check us out. My man One Take Zaya has his own channel. My man Post Game has his own channel. My man SEC Sean has his own channel. Parlay Poe has his own channel, Blitzberg, and my man Mossberg of Level Up Spurs 10 has his own channel, along with T1 at City League TV. All of those are scrolling across the bottom. So if you didn't catch all those names, don't worry about it. Just read what's scrolling across the bottom, and you can check us all out. Please subscribe. Also, you can check us out on Patreon and on Spotify at WTP Sports Dudes 2026. And also go check out our webpage at WTPSportsDudes.com. Until next time, we'll see you Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Please join us then, and we'll have many, many more questions for you. And we'll see you then. Peace.
Peace.